All right, so this is what we're going to be doing for the Excel Module 1. The idea ultimately is to take this data, which I'll put up on the screen, this data, and make it look like this data. This is basically, I just went through the textbook and came up with this. All right, I think I was pretty faithful to following textbooks. I'm actually going to make some changes because I don't really like how this is anyway, but that's fine. Also, there's going to be two tabs here. We have the data, which has the addition of the columns of the totals. It's also got what the difference is. That is not present in the data as you see in its raw form. In this raw form, we just basically know that in expenses for payroll, that much, I guess, was spent, but we don't know what the total is for Q1, right? That has been calculated for us. We also don't know what the difference between the total of our expenses and the total of our income is, and that is basically calculated for us as well. And obviously, it's colorings and wonderful titles. And then, as I say, at the end of the day, we're also going to get a fabulous pie chart out of this too. I might actually do this in two videos, similar to what the book did. I might just basically do the chart first as video one, and then basically getting the sorry, not the chart, but the data first is video one, and then basically do the chart as video two. So let's get rid of, I'm going to keep the finished solution down here so I can see it. And let's basically go ahead with the fine art of getting this data up into here. All right, so the way the book starts and the way I guess I would start is we have ourselves our titles. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these two titles from my working document into here and just leave them. So there's my two titles. Then the next thing it went ahead and did is it went ahead and created the column headings, and that's what it's going to go right there. Right, so we basically type in income. If you're new to Excel or any of this stuff, you might want to get used to navigating around and actually typing this stuff. There's nothing wrong with doing that. For example, at this point, I'll type expense. I know it's coming up. And then I moved with my right key over to Q1 and so on, right? I mean, you can do that if you want. I'm speeding things up. Probably if you are going to be typing this, which you likely are, I would then copy these headings by basically dragging my mouse over. I'd go copy, and then down here in expense, I would go paste. And so there's that all done for me. Now we have row headings. One is revenue. One is interest. We want to have those two in there. Um, the other guys, I guess I'll have to type those now. So payroll, rent, inventory, utilities, insurance, gas, website, marketing, miscellaneous. All right, grade 10 typing all coming in there. That's awesome. Then we basically had a bunch of numbers. I'm going to copy these numbers in. So in this case, the first set, the revenue apparently was a solid 75,000 a quarter, it looks like. And the interest we got on that was about $300 a quarter. In this case, for payroll, and I got to be careful about how I'm copying and pasting this stuff. Again, you will be typing it. So we're going to do that. And then it's going to be 6,000. So, again, if you want to sort of try some applied learning, it's going to be the rent is a solid 6,000. So let's just take this guy and go copy and then drag across here, and you can go paste. I'm using Control C and Control V for that. It looks like, yeah, they weren't particularly inventive here. The inventory's 5,000 for every month but the last one. So 5,000 every quarter, I should say, but the last one. I'm going to go copy. I'm going to bring that over, paste, and the 6,000 can come down here. Now we got that row done. It looks like boy, I guess Q4 is a big deal for them. 1,200 is what it is here. I'm going to go again, copy and bring that over, paste, and make this 1,400. And then insurance is a solid, oh, what am I missing something? Oh, it's utilities. Did I have that right? Utilities is that good deal? It's 500. For the rest of it, I'll just keep that in mind. And then this is going to be 300, except for the last guy, which is 450. And then website is a solid 100 across the whole board. Marketing is 300 across the whole board, and miscellaneous is 500 across the whole board. And that reeks of bad data. I doubt very much if your miscellaneous will remain consistent. And I'm just filling it in with straight copies and pastes just to get my data. All right. That over paste, and then this guy copy and paste. All right, so I got all my data. One neat thing, by the way, is I seem to have an extra row. If I want to get rid of a row, you can click on the number of the row, right click, delete. You get, and it basically just deleted it. Awesome. All right, so now let's talk about the fabulous formatting of all this because I did spend some time on that. So we're going to basically make the title a particular style, another style. We're going to make these things a style, and we're going to go ahead and start coloring the crap out of the out of our data there. So let's just go ahead and do that. So first of all, I can click on this dude, and on what I'm actually going to what am I saying here? What I'm going to actually do for the main title, and I'm a little, there it is. Now, the book said to basically click, and I had styles, and I just know I'm going here. So I'm going to click on this style, I'm going to go to title, and now I've got myself a nice little title. Great. I do believe I do want it bold, so I'm going to make it bold. Similar, if you did the word stuff, that'll all be familiar. Quarterly estimates was not a style. Oops, was not a style. So I'd want to have a quick peek to see what I did. I made it Georgia 14. So let's go ahead and make this guy Georgia 14. All right, Georgia 14. And that's a drop down as well. Good deal. Make them bold as well. All right. They're both supposed to be blue, and I can't remember which is the blue that they chose. So I'm just going to choose this blue, and we're going to choose this blue. Now, here's a super important thing to know. All this text is only sitting in this cell, A1. It's not sitting in B1. B1, if I click on B1, notice it's blank. That's definitely important. Quarterly here, quarterly estimates is in A2. It doesn't exist in B2. It's only in here. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but I can't help it. There's all these cells. I want them to merge into one cell. I want it just to be one cell. Oh, wait a minute. I don't want to do it quite yet, but I will be in a minute. All right, one thing I forgot to put in here is I forgot to put totals. We actually have a total column here. We got a total column here, and I did not actually have an extra line. I made a mistake there because I'm going to want to have a total line there. So I'm going to insert a line by clicking on the row and going insert, and now I got myself a new row there. I'm going to type myself total and then put a total here. All right. The reason that came to my mind is that I realized that this heading is to be spread across all 6 rows. All right, so now I got this guy sitting in here. I've highlighted all these different cells. These are all different cells, but I'm going to basically make them into one or merge them into one. There's a beautiful button here, merge and center, and that's what I'm going to do, merge and center. Now he's been merged. I'm going to take the quarterly estimate, do the same thing, merge and center. Awesome, great. We can do a little bit more character formatting before we go much further. I want to also make sure that my these titles are actually looking pretty good. Now I can't quite remember what they did for that. So let me just take that, highlight, and see, can I think of it off the top of my head? Yeah, total no, that would be for the total line. Heading 2, maybe? Is that what they did? Heading 2? Yeah, heading 2. Perfect. And I'm going to make that also heading 2. Wonderful. Good deal. So these total lines, may as well, while I'm sitting here talking about this, make that a total line. So I'm going to go up here, make that a total. This is all if you really like the old, the default. This is all default. Okay. One thing you'll notice is that some of this data we can't see. Marketing, we barely see. Miscellaneous, we're missing some of this. That's because this column is only it's sort of a default width. When you want to eventually make these columns express like the entirety of the data, you can always bring your mouse up. Now, see how right now it looks like a little cross. Here it's looking like a down arrow. If you move it to right between the two, I can go and say, hey, make it as long as the longest piece of data in that column. You could, by the way, what was the deal? Anyway, if you highlight all this and then you kind of go to probably here and here, it could basically do that for every column at once. I'd be very cautious when you do that. Make sure you know what you're doing before you do that. All right, so that was exciting. So now the next thing to do is to do this thing with the colors. So they wanted this to be one particular style, and I can't remember what it was, and this to be another particular style, and I can't remember what it was. I don't really like that as a practice, but why not? Let's just do that. So I'm going to make this guy. Well, I know what they did. They did 60%, right? So this is 60%. This is going to be 60%. And all they're doing is they're just trying to alternate it, right? So 60%, 60%. Now, I'll tell you why I don't like doing this. It's okay that you guys know how to do this, but I want to point out that at some point later on, this report gets another row in the middle of all this. What are you going to do? You're going to have to go through and redo all this coloring. So if you know this is the way the report's going to be for the rest of its life, then great. Otherwise, be careful with this. That was 60% for those rows. I want this to be now 40%. And now apparently it'll look closer to what the textbook did. All right. Well, that was exciting. I don't normally do this, and well, I never do this. And then I'm going to also say that when it comes to using other applications, I will be a big fan of letting the computer figure out how to alternate the rows. There's all sorts of approaches to this. But anyway, that's enough. All right. So I think we got what we need. Now, what we want to do is we want to start filling in the totals. We want the totals here and the totals here. So one option, and it's definitely the easiest option, is you select the rows that you want to select. And you'll notice that way over here, there's an auto sum. Sometimes you just see this weird little symbol. That symbol means sigma, which basically means the sum. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And now I get myself a total. That's awesome. I'm going to now highlight this group. I'm going to click on the auto sum. Awesome. Now, if I want, what I can do is I can keep doing that. Or if I go copy and then drag this over and go, what the hell, paste. That's another way to do that. Now, notice something really cool here. It's totaled up these values, even though those values they don't have any values unless you get 0. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the back end of this now. When I click on this total, notice that up here in this cell, we have the formula. I didn't really talk about this before, but as we put like 300 into this cell, that is the formula. 300 here is the formula. 28,000 is the formula. This formula is the sum of B10 right here to B18, right? So although I've been doing this rather fast by just going copy and paste, I'm actually taking a formula and pasting it across. That way, if values change, if this becomes 1,000, it changes. That's key because I don't know how many people do this now, but I remember someone actually was typing in all the totals. They would literally take a calculator and add all this up and type in the total, and it drove me crazy. This is now why we're using Excel and why we're not doing this in Word. Now we want to basically total these up. It's kind of the same deal. You can basically highlight and go auto sum, and now we get ourselves a nice total. And copy and paste. Awesome. Another option, which the book did, if I can remember it, is you can highlight all these together. And I think, was it still auto sum? Yeah, that's still auto sum, right? Let's just make sure my values are the same. All right, 144, 144, 950. Yes, that's still the same. Okay, good deal. So now we got ourselves our totals. Awesome. Okay, next step is to do that last column. What is the net? What is the net between this and this. So how much money did we really make? Oh, one other thing too. Let's make it look like money. All right. So the way the book did it, I thought was kind of clever. They basically have these values looking like a counting number formula. We click on this button, and there it goes. It looks like a counting number formula. They have dollar signs, they have commas, and it's brought it to 2 decimals. It also, what it did is, I'm realizing I think my finished example is wrong. Yeah, my finished example is wrong, but whatever. It also took this, it only made the first row accounting. It made the total accounting, but it did not do that to the middle. The middle, for whatever reason, they decided it should look like that. And that's okay, right? When I say look like that, what is that? That is basically the comma style. That's what it made it look like. Okay, well, I can live with that. I guess, one thing, the advantage there is it's not quite as cluttered with all these dollar signs. So, um, I'm not sure what I messed that up, but I must have messed that up. Now, the other thing is, if this is basically an integer report, like it doesn't really care about any of the cents in here, then you can get rid of those by highlighting your numbers. And then basically this button here means to increase decimal. I'll just show you it right now. It makes it 3 decimals. This decreases decimals, and you can decrease it to be basically whole numbers. And we can do the same. Oh, I should have done that with the totals too. Same thing there. And I can take this and I can go and make that the same thing there. All right. So now he's cool. So my formatting is good. And actually, I say my formatting is good, but there's still something that's bothering me here. I don't like how these characters are, this cell is left justified and this is right justified. Now, what the book did is it said, hey, let's center these things. I think that's gross. If it's right, if it's a number, I would like to align it with the actual numbers. So I'm going to right justify it. All right. If you center or right, it's, I guess, your preference. Just don't leave it left because it's just gross if you do that with a bunch of numbers underneath. Awesome. Okay, so now I got net. And what is the net? The net is basically how much we made, subtract how much we spent. Now, this is formula. It's not up here. You don't get any little fancy cheat here. It's not up here. You're going to have to figure this out. Notice that when I went to sum, there's an equal sign in front because these cells are all formulas. If I said equals 1 plus 2, I'm going to get 3. It's a formula, right? So in this case, this formula is using a function called sum. And we'll talk more about functions in the next bit there. But here I'm just going to go equals, and I'm going to say equals this cell, B7, subtract this cell, B19. Now, I could have typed all that, but sometimes I like to actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to hit the enter button. And there is my fabulous number, 41,400, which makes sense to what I've got finished. Now, again, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste this. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but this doesn't look any good. I could apply the style, but another option, which I think is kind of cool, is you highlight the cells that you want it to look like. You go paint and you highlight the target. And now these guys look like that. Now, is that everything I was supposed to do? I'm trying to think. You know what I am going to do right now, though? I am going to change this sheet. So we're going to change the sheet to be quarterly finances, and I'm going to save the book. I'm going to save this book right now. I'm just saving it in my downloads. I'm going to save it as Excel one demo, but obviously you want to give it a better name. I'm going to hit that, and I think that is all I want to do right now. All I want to risk before I do the next thing. All right. So the next my next video, I'm going to talk about graphing this.